Welcome back to God is Alive. My name is Serena, and here I speak all about what it truly means to have a personal relationship with God. We have faith every day that we'll wake up tomorrow, so I want to start a fire in your heart to stop chasing the temporary things of this world and to put that same faith in God. So let's learn about God and learn to lean on God, because what's the worst that could happen? Hi, my loves. Welcome back to God is Alive. My name is Serena, and today we're going to be speaking about how to answer His call. This whole podcast is about how God is alive. God is out there. God is a being just like you and me. And just like you and me, He wants relationships and He wants love and acceptance just like we all do. And everyone is invited to have a relationship with God. The issue becomes they don't answer the call. They don't hear the call. Or maybe they don't even realize He's trying to call you. So if we go to Matthew chapter 9, there's a story called The Calling of Matthew. And up until this point in the story, Jesus is out here doing God's work, healing, forgiving, teaching. So in the book of Matthew chapter 9, is when Jesus calls Matthew. And the book of Matthew is written by Matthew. So this is his version of the story. This story is also written down in the books of Luke and Mark. Except in the books of Luke and Mark, Matthew is referred to as Levi. In Mark chapter 2, verses 13 through 17, and in Luke chapter 5, verses 27 through 31, it's the same exact story, except the name Levi instead of the name Matthew. So scholars don't know when or how Matthew's name got changed. But we do know this. This is not the first time in the Bible where someone's name had changed. Simon's name changed to Peter. Abraham's name changed to Abram. From the Old Testament to the New Testament, this name change is not for no reason. This name change signifies, number one, the God that we serve that doesn't change. Old Testament, New Testament, the process of being born again has been the same. It's been the same. And I couldn't help but notice how this story, even though it's written down in Matthew, Luke, and Mark, Matthew wrote his name as Matthew. Even though at the time, Matthew wasn't Matthew yet. At that time, in this story, Matthew was Levi. He wasn't Matthew yet. To Matthew, he is Matthew. Matthew embraced his new identity so much that even when he was writing about a time before he was born again, he wrote his born again name. Because to Matthew, he was no longer Levi. That is a significant change of heart. That conveys an immense change that happened in Matthew. But I wanted to talk about his response. So when I was reading in Matthew chapter 9, this verse stood out to me amongst the rest. It says, Matthew chapter 9, verse 9, as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. Follow me, Jesus told him. And Matthew got up and followed him. We don't know what went on in his head. We don't know if he was scared, hesitant. We don't know the full story. We know he got up and he followed. He answered the call. I fail to realize sometimes that that's the most important thing. That's truly all he really wants from us, to answer the call. I'm not going to sit here and say Matthew didn't think about his decisions or he didn't think about the cost, but I will say he didn't care about the cost of following Jesus the same way other people did. You see, many people were not willing to follow Jesus the way Matthew was. This is shown really well in Luke chapter 9, verses 57 through 62. Talking about the cost of following Jesus, there was one man who said that he would follow Jesus wherever he went, and Jesus is like, okay, but you do realize I don't have a home, I don't have a place to rest my head. And the man backed out. Then Jesus went to another man and said, follow me. And the man said, okay, but first, let me bury my father. Now, I've heard multiple meanings of this. I've heard that in customs such as these, he would have received money, and that's why he wanted to do it. I've also heard that during that time when they said that they wanted to bury their father, it didn't actually mean that their father was dead. It just meant that they were dying and they wanted to be there with him. The point of this one being, he said, yeah, Jesus, but, yeah, I will, but, and Jesus is like, no buts. He says, if you value your mother, your father, your children, your husband, your wife over me, you don't deserve me. That's how serious he is about having a relationship with us. Now, if I'm going to be honest with you, you're probably thinking, because the same thing I thought was, that's kind of crazy. Like, you're asking for a lot. I don't know if I have what it takes. It seems as though someone's saying, I'll follow you, Jesus, but first let me bury my dad. It seems like a reasonable request, and it does. But the thing about Jesus that I've had to come to realize is he can see through what people say, and he can see into their hearts. I'm sure through their hearts and through their responses, Jesus knew that these people prioritized personal obligations, family obligations, and the world over Jesus. He knew that. The issue was not that they had duties to fulfill. The issue was their reluctance, their hesitation to place Jesus and his call above other things. If they truly believed that Jesus was who he said he was, they wouldn't have been acting like that. And I'm here to argue the same thing today. If you truly believe Jesus is who he says he is and who I'm saying he is, we would get up and follow, and we would answer the call. We wouldn't be hesitant. The last guy, he said, I'll follow you, Jesus, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family. That's crazy. Again, it seems like a reasonable request. But these hesitations to follow him conveyed that deep down they were not ready to commit to the demands of discipleship. They were not ready to pick up and go. And when it comes to these 12 disciples gave their lives fighting for Jesus. That's how serious this is. Jesus is saying, I want you to be able to choose me over the world, to choose me over your earthly life, to choose me over your family. And if you're not ready to do that, you're not going to answer the call. So what makes Matthew so different than these people? What made Matthew want to get up and follow him and not these other people? Well, the one thing we know about Matthew is that he was a Jewish tax collector. So this man was a Jew, living amongst many other Jews, working for the Roman officials, and as a tax collector, his job was to take money from his own fellow Jews and give it to the Roman officials. So you can understand, this left people like Matthew extremely unpopular, extremely disliked, and extremely outcasted. And although this is not explicitly stated in the Bible, I can imagine for someone like Matthew living this kind of life, day in, day out, working your job, being miserable, being hated for no reason, no one even giving you a chance because they all know who you are. You're the tax collector, Even the Pharisees and the people in the law thought they were bad people. And then this guy, Jesus, right, comes out of nowhere and he starts preaching, the kingdom of heaven is near. Turn your ways to me, turn your hearts to me. Listen to me and I will set you free. He probably spoke with such authority. Matthew was probably so intrigued. Imagine. Jesus is probably walking. He's probably got loads of people listening. He's probably preaching amongst his streets. He probably has people. He's healing. Jesus is healing. Jesus is casting demons out of people. He is attracting a lot of attention by everything he's doing. People could see his power. People could see his authority. Everywhere he went, the news of him spread. And then, what does he do? He goes up to this outcast, this guy who's been in a corner for who knows how long, feeling unpopular and disliked. And Jesus goes to him and he says, you know what? Follow me. You want to follow me? Imagine being recognized like that by this guy, this mysterious guy. You're like, yeah, you know what? You're the first person who's given me this kind of love, this kind of attention. You're the first person that's actually made me feel worthy in a world that makes me feel small. That's how Jesus works. That's how he got someone like Matthew to get up and go. Who does Jesus call? He calls Matthew. This is the same God who called David, a tiny little shepherd boy, to go against a Goliath, a giant. This is the same God who went to Moses and said, yeah, you grew up in Egypt and had to flee from Egypt. I want you to go back to Egypt because I got big plans for you. Moses was like, no, Lord, please don't choose me. Choose anyone else. And God's like, no, I choose you. Why? Because God uses the people who are the most unlikely, the people who are marginalized, the people who are hurt, because God knows something about those kinds of people. He knows how much potential they have. If only they felt worthy, if only they felt seen, and they could unleash that potential. I had to take a class in university called Christianity. Paul got so much recognition, it wasn't even funny. The class basically attributed all of Christianity's success to Paul. And it's interesting because out of the 12 disciples, Paul was the least likely, if you really think about it. Paul was the one that was originally named Saul, and he hated Christians, persecuted Christians. And then what? He had an encounter with God, and he completely changed his ways. He felt seen, he felt worthy, and he felt loved. And the story with Paul is an amazing one at that, which I would love to get into in another episode. But when Paul realized that God was real and that Christianity was real, he completely changed his ways. And I truly believe that because he was so far away from him and so far against God, that once he came to God, he almost worked harder. He almost did the most because he was so grateful, because he was so filled with God's mercy. God used each one of these unlikely people not because they were special, not because they were wise, not because they were perfect and pretty, because God knew they would answer the call. He went to Moses, he went to Abraham, he went to Paul, he went to all these people, and he was able to use them because they answered the call. Even though God calls everyone, not everyone answers the call. Moses pleaded with God, saying, God, you have the wrong person. I don't know who you think I am, but it's not me. I'm not a good speaker. And God says, you know what? Yes, you are. I know you are. God knew he was going to answer the call. Abraham, do you think Abraham wanted to sacrifice his son? He was willing to. He didn't have to in the end, but God knew he would answer that call. And just like Matthew didn't respond like the other people did. Matthew didn't go, yeah, I hear you, Jesus. That all sounds great and everything, but let me do this first. Matthew said yes. He may have felt worthy. He may have felt incapable. He may have felt small and insignificant, but he said yes. And that's all God wants. A yes. That's all he wants. Nowhere in this entire Bible does it say, be perfect, go to church every week, donate a lot of money, and, never make a mistake. No, it says have faith, have a good heart, help those in need. It says if you have $10 in your bank account and you give 5 of that to someone else, you have given more than someone who has $100,000 in their bank account and donated 1,000. Because God cares about your heart. And of course, Matthew says yes, and they follow him, and they're all having a dinner. It says that Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house with many tax collectors and sinners. So we have Jesus and the disciples and a bunch of these other tax collectors and sinners. And what does that mean? What do sinners mean? It means people that go against God's ways and do their own ways, right? Which is all of us. We all do our own way over God's way. So what does this mean? It means he's sitting around with his 12 disciples and a bunch of other people like you and me who are not perfect, doing jobs that might not be the best job in the world. Sometimes you gotta put food on the table. And God understands. And God doesn't judge you. God is not a condemning God, unlike the Pharisees. See, what happens is, when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? These people, they're on their high horse, high and mighty, going, well, I follow all the rules, and I'm perfect, and I do everything that I think is right, and you're not. See, you're not perfect, and you're not living the best life, and you surround yourself with not good people, and I'm better than you. It's like this mentality. You see it time and time again when these people are following Jesus, low-key obsessed with Jesus, trying to stump Jesus, trying to kill Jesus. Why? In this scenario, these people are judging Jesus, Matthew, the tax collectors, and sinners. They're judging people they don't even know. They're judging people in situations they can't even understand. God does not do that. There is no condemnation from God. What I mean when I say that is condemnation is when someone expresses strong disapproval or criticism towards something or someone. It's looking at someone and going, I don't agree with your actions. You're wrong and I'm right. I don't like what you're doing. You're doing it wrong. Jesus, God, they don't do that. They do not go around judging and condemning. And as much as this world tries to convince us that's what God does, that he sits up there in heaven and if you're not perfect, you're going to hell, that's the furthest thing from the truth. It makes me so mad. You see how... It makes me so mad. Do you see how passionate I am about this? That's the furthest thing from the truth. It's like spreading lies about something or someone you don't even know. And it's sad that many people believe that. So while this world goes around judging others for their actions and how they look and this and that and how much money you earn and what your status is and, oh, well, I'm not going to go sit with that person. I'm going to go, they're at the loser table. Stupid. God does not view us like that. He would never look at you and go, she's at the loser table or she's at the popular table. He doesn't view us like that. The world saw Matthew as dirt, but not Jesus. The opposite of the word condemn is approval. In Romans chapter 8, verse 1, it says, therefore there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. What this means is for those who trust in him, accept his death and his resurrection, accept that anything that goes against God and his ways eventually die. Everything that goes against God and his ways, the payment of that is death. The price of that is death. God is God. God is sovereign. That is the way it is. So when the Pharisees come around saying, why is your teacher, why is Jesus eating with sinners and tax collectors? Why is he at the loser table? Isn't he supposed to be the Son of God, right? They're trying to catch him. They're judging him. They're forming opinions about him and about his disciples and about the people that are around without facts. But not God. God does not judge in that way. God knows all the facts. But God's perspective is shown through Jesus' response to the Pharisees. He says, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I desire mercy, not sacrifice." And don't take this offensively, like we're all sick and we need to be cured. It's more like, let's say you have a dear friend, and that friend is severely sick. Physically, mentally, spiritually sick. And you have the cure. And you know if she were to take this medicine once a day, in the morning, with food, that she would be fine. Would you keep that medicine from your friend? No, you would go, "Hey girl, I got the medicine right here. I know exactly what you're dealing with. If you do what I say, I promise you, you will feel better. I promise you, I'm not lying to you. This is it. I found the medicine. I have the cure." That's what Jesus is saying. He's saying, I see all of these people living their lives, dealing with judgment, being marginalized, being hurt by this world, going through really cruel things that I did not intend for them, things that I wish they weren't going through. And I have a remedy for them. I have something that's going to set them free. I have something that's going to change their life forever. And he loves us so much that he's not going to withhold it. He loves us so much that God is not just sitting out there in heaven going, "Man, remember that earth, those humans I made that one time? I hope they're still doing good." That's not how he works at all. He's seeing every little thing, every little moment. He is seeing you listening to this podcast right now. You think that's going unnoticed? You think he sees where your heart's at? Because I promise you he does. Jesus says, "For I have not come to call the righteous, but the sinners." Why? No one is righteous. According to God's standard, none of us are righteous. We all fall short. We all lie, even if it's white lying. We've probably, stolen a thing or two here and there. I definitely did, especially, I was a kindergartner once. I stole this kid's birthday pencil in my class because I thought I was never going to get a birthday pencil. I thought the school year ended before I was going to get one. So, we are little sinful little bees. And Jesus is saying, I have come for you. I have come for the hurting, the broken, the tired, the marginalized, the ones who go against me. Those are the ones I've come for. The judged, the ones who feel unloved, the ones who feel unworthy by this world, the ones who feel lost. He proclaims that he has the medicine that we need. He proclaims that he is the living water who will quench our thirst. Not literal water. He is saying that he will quench our longing, our desire for more, our desire for purpose and love and worthiness, that he will fill those desires single-handedly. He makes strong promises that the love that we receive from him will wipe away all of those feelings that we don't need. That when we have Jesus, it doesn't matter if things are going good or bad. It doesn't matter if we're living paycheck to paycheck or if we're spending our weekends on a yacht. It's all going to be okay. We don't need to search for this love and acceptance and attention in clothes or in materialistic things or in our loved ones, that he will fulfill us. And for people like the Pharisees, they don't see how they need that figurative medicine that Jesus describes because they don't see the error in their ways. You're not going to take the medicine if you don't think you need it. But let me put it to you like this. The way it makes sense in my head is, if you've never tried the medicine, how do you know if it works or not? And I'm not talking take a one pill. Did it work? No, I don't feel any better, whatever, it didn't work. I'm talking consistently. Once a day, then you might see how it might work in your life. But if you just refuse it, and you go, no, I'm fine, I don't need it. No, don't shove your medicine down my throat, I don't want it. Okay, that's fine, I'm just saying, the medicine works. The medicine works so well, I made a whole podcast trying to help people find the medicine. Because let me tell you, the ones who say yes to Jesus' call, the ones who accept his invitation, are the ones that realize they not just want his medicine, but need it. And that is a humbling feeling that I have felt. I had to completely put down all of those feelings of wanting the acceptance that I crave from this world and realize that no matter how hard I try, if I kept going the way I was going, I was just going to keep feeling lost and broken and alone in a world full of over 7 billion people. And it wasn't until I put my pride down and said, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of going on this journey alone. I'm tired of feeling marginalized. I'm tired of this world convincing me that I'm worthless and that I'm insignificant and that I'm unloved, because it's the farthest thing from the truth. So it's completely okay to not know God, to not trust God, to not really know where accepting his call is going to take you. You're not going to know. You're not going to know. But I think you do know where you're going to be if you keep going down the road you're going. And I guess my question for you is, do you want to keep going down that road? Because you don't have to. Psalm 34 verse 18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." I wanted to end on this verse because it's so beautiful. It is such a profound expression of his compassion, of his presence in our times of sorrow and distress. When we're happy, when we're sad, when we're dancing, and when we're crying, he's there and he's ready to be there. He is intimately close to those who experience this deep brokenheartedness. And he promises that through sickness and in health, through death, he will never forsake you. And knowing the one who is capable of that kind of love changes you, because it's unlike any other feeling you will ever get from the world. And I hope you experience it, because God never changes. We do. So I truly hope that you clicked on this podcast hoping to find out how to answer his call. And the only thing you have to do is say yes. I'll follow you. I don't know what that entails, but I'll do it. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. Today's song of the day is Turn Out Fine by Henrik. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again next time. So now you know more about me, but I want to get to know you too. So if you want, feel free to head on over to Instagram and message me at Serena Speaks Podcast with questions or just anything. Also, I plan to create a website soon to foster a community here and to provide resources just for you. As always, Thank you for tuning in, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next time. Mwah.